How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, do me a huge favor, go down and subscribe before we get started into the video. Today we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks about the Bronco and some features that you may not know about. The Bronco has a ton of features, and it's definitely easy to overlook a couple of them. So here's some helpful tips, some tricks for people buying the Broncos and for people who already own them as well. We just had a massive snowstorm, but here is my 2022 Eruption Green Ford Bronco. It's an Outer Banks with the Lux Pack interior, so it's got a decent amount of options on it. Some of these things will be things that only higher packages have, but some will be that all of them have. With that being said, let's hop into the Bronco and talk about some of the features that you may not know about. But before we hop in, let's talk about the key fob real quick. My Bronco's optioned with remote start because it's a higher package, but that's not available on every single one of these things. But what is available in all Broncos is if you come over, you tap and hold the key, all of the windows will roll down. Now that's a universal feature in a lot of vehicles, but for the summer, I just thought that you guys should know that if you do have your doors on, all of the windows will roll down if you do press and hold. But since my vehicle does have remote start, we tap lock, double tap the remote start, and it fires right up. So talking about remote start real quick, if your vehicle does not have remote start because you have more of a base model vehicle, you still have a remote start feature, and let me show you how you access that. The way to access remote start with a base model is to get the Ford Pass app on your phone. This way you can unlock, lock, and start the vehicle as long as you have some type of cellular connection, and you can even do it from an Apple Watch. So taking the Apple Watch off my wrist just so I can do it with one hand, but as you can see there, that is my Bronco. So if I press and hold the power button, it clicked in my hand, hold it, and you can remote start it with the watch, which is pretty cool. The phones definitely have more range than the key fobs, but keep in mind, I think you can probably tune a base model to have remote start in the key because the feature is already built in. But for the next feature, we're going to talk once again about the key and specifically what happens if your key fob dies. So many of you probably know this, but if you have the key, right, and you take the key and you press this button right here, a physical key comes out and you can unlock the vehicle. But every Bronco is a push to start. So another thing many of you may know is if you just take the back of the key or you take the physical fob itself and place it against the starter. So you can come and place it against the start button and it should start the vehicle. But the Bronco has another spot. So underneath the center console here, if you move this and you actually remove the padding from the center console, there is a slot to stick your key right there. So taking a step out, if you didn't know this, most of you guys already know this, but the roof and the doors come off of this vehicle because it's a convertible SUV. The doors have a quick release, but also there's a ton of latches in the roof here as well, and you can easily remove the top and the doors if you wanted to in the summertime. And in order to remove the doors, Ford provides a kit for you to do so, and you can easily remove them by removing the bolts here and a bolt there and the wiring harness here. A little hard to see, but you guys kind of get the idea. All the tools are Bronco branded. You can see it's a Bronco on there, and it actually says Bronco on here as well. What Ford has done is actually dummy-proof the doors as well. If the Bronco doors aren't tight enough, it's going to creak, and it's going to tell you, hey, I am not torqued to spec. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to slightly remove my bolt and show you guys the sound it makes when your bolt isn't tight enough. You can really tell right here. That is the sound of a door that is not properly torqued to spec and not tight enough. Now, if I give it a open and close, you can hear that it is not making any noise, and that is how it should be. The next feature I want to talk about is another thing that has to deal with the door removal. So if you can tell here, if you take your doors off, the mirrors are actually mounted to the vehicle itself. In other vehicles, not mentioning any brands, Jeep, the mirrors are mounted to the doors, so if you take the doors off, you don't have mirrors. But in the Bronco, you still have the mirrors if the doors are off. Another thing is these fenders are removable, so if you crack one, whatever, they're easily accessible and you can just rip them off. So if you come underneath the Bronco, there are 5 of these. You just unturn them partially, and theoretically you should be able to just pull this off. So a little hard to record for you guys, but there we go. It's a little trickier than I thought it would be to get off. You kind of just got to commit to it a little bit, make some light cracking noises, but I guess it's supposed to do that. I don't really know where to put this, But that's what it looks like with the fender off. If you have the metal front bumper option, you can actually disassemble the front bumper partially as well. A little nerve-wracking the first time you do it because you don't want to break anything, but it's quite simple. You just pull. Like I was saying with the metal front bumper, there's a ton of accessories for this thing. There's lights, all of those different things, but from Ford as well, Ford offers a bunch of things. I'm going to put a little bit of a catalog here. So if you want some of those things, Ford actually gives you points when you buy the vehicle itself to use towards some cool accessories, which is awesome. You can also use those points for oil changes and stuff, but there's a lot of points, and I believe there's a couple $100, I think up to $600 worth of points that you have. Come to the back of the Bronco. This is one that most of you guys already know about. But right here is a bottle opener. If you guys are wondering why it's there, it's a little bit of a weird placement, but you can pop these window panels out, or when the roof is off, you can access it pretty easily. It's just weird that when everything is on, you can't really access it. Would have put it somewhere else, but at least it's something, I guess. Another quick thing I'm going to mention, this thing has a ton of Easter eggs everywhere. Now, I'm not going to go through them because it would take me like 15 minutes to go through all of them, but I'm going to give you an example of a couple of them. Not really an Easter egg, but that's the only Ford logo that's on the entire vehicle, and there's a ton of Bronco logos everywhere you look. Another Easter egg, if you have a Sasquatch package, there's a little Sasquatch walking there. There's Bronco literally everywhere. There's Broncos in the headlights here, things like that. There's a ton of logos and kind of Easter eggs throughout this entire vehicle. Now lastly is some of the features that are actually in this screen itself. So one of those features is zone lighting. If you guys don't know what zone lighting is, basically at night you can choose to light up certain parts of the vehicle. You can light up all the zones, as you might want to call it, and it kind of has lights all the way around. You can light up certain zones, whatnot. It's a pretty cool feature, and you can really tell it at night. Pretty self-explanatory though. A thing with the zone lighting is, if you actually want to individually control like the lights under the mirrors and whatnot, you can actually do that just by the buttons over here. Example of what I'm talking about, I'm going to click the left mirror, and the light on the left mirror will illuminate. If you're using the zone lighting, it's the exact same light that's going to illuminate. But another thing is, if you come over to driver assists, this is where you have a lot of your features that you might want to turn off. For example, cruise control. If you want to turn adaptive cruise control off, this is how you do it. You come to features on the bottom, driver assist, and you can do that. So lane keep assist, you can kind of have that on, off, all of the different sensors and everything. If you want some of those features off, this is how you do it. One of the things I thought that was cool when I first got it was adaptive cruise control. But over time, I started to despise it a little bit, and there was actually a way to turn it off, and it took me a while to actually, decide to Google how to turn it off, but that is how you turn adaptive cruise control and all the sensors and everything off. The one disappointing thing is, it warns you that adaptive cruise control is off every single time you get in, drive it, and turn cruise control on for the first time. I don't know how to turn that off. Another tip is a tip for these garage door openers. You don't pair them like your regular cars where you go and click the learn button on your garage. You actually need a remote that's programmed to the garage you want to be using, the garage door that you want to be using. You take the remote, hold down the remote button and hold down the button that you want to program, and then you hold them together and eventually it'll sync using the remote, not the actual garage, which I struggled with for a little bit, and I had to look up and figure out how to get that done. With all of that being said, those are some cool tips, tricks, secret features that you might not have known about the Ford Bronco, and I hope this video has helped you learn a little bit more about this truck. If you guys did enjoy, do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. Check out some other Bronco videos right here. That's all I have, and I'll see you guys in the next video.